and consent in exchange for protecting that right and defending those privileges, those opportunities, those natural rights, those gifts, those interests. And the promisee is the politician who is receiving it. And also, it is also a reversible process. And in which case, the promisee becomes the promisor, and you become the promisee, the voter becomes the promisee. And in which case, the promisor, the politician applying for the job, is the one asking you and telling you and making all these promises to you, because this is what is mostly known. The politician makes all these promises to you. So as you bargain in this particular relationship, in this association, in this trade, it can even be trade by barter, because there is some things that is going on. In order to make it a social contract, there must be a consideration. So you will see, for those that understand the law, and the law that I'm using to explain it, to see that as this bargain and this barter is going on, there must be an assent. And I'm telling you, the soldiers, an assent meaning you must agree to whatever they are selling, whatever they are promising you, whatever is in their policy, whatever that is doing. If it suits me and meets my interest, then I must agree. An assent must be there. I must agree. And they themselves must also agree. So it makes it a mutual assent. Two people agreeing together as a social contract. So you can see that there is already a subjective intent and also an objective intent that is expressly expressed. And when is this possible? If it is hidden, the problem lies on whoever that is making the promises. In most cases, the politicians that like to lie. The burden is on them to expressly express their interest and their intent in such a way that even a reasonable and rational man will understand it clearly. In absence of this, they are in violation of the contract already, and there is no need. Even if it goes in, then it becomes a problem. Because now, if you remember, we talked about unconscionability of law, or unconscionability of actions or word. When in the process there is so much error or ambiguity or misrepresentation or things to the point that no reasonable or rational man will agree to it. It becomes the issue of unconscionability. And it becomes unconscionable. If it becomes unconscionable as a matter of law, you already know that is already null and void. Whatever such an agreement is null and void, and it is not enforceable. So you find a lot of the time in the social contract, the voters are the one that is conned, the one that is scammed by the politicians who are very ambiguous and they can't be able to take anything they say. And which is why these days in this season of the Lord, he's been very angry about those people that make those kind of unambiguous and unclear terms and hide their intents. They also hide their interests, and then once they get your vote, then they begin to do whatever they want to do. Because when you say the offerer and the offeree, because in making that offer, there is an offer on the table. Yes, I'll give you all this of your interest, but in return, I need you to vote for me. So if you are going to vote for the person, is it going to be forever? Is there a time frame for it? At what point does it change? So these are things that are expressed. For example, if even in the political process, you see there is a time for you to register. There is a time for you to both the voters and the politicians. There is a time for you to do this, do that, do that. After this time, there is a time for you to campaign. So there are timelines that is also observed in the whole process, which brings in the issue of the contractual relationship. Because as we are looking at it, we think it's a completely different, but it's actually a contract between the voter and the politician. So you find that people that go outside the four walls of a contract are in breach of the contract. And when you breach the contract, of course, the only remedy to a breach of contract is award of damages. There must be a damage to that because you have damaged the voter who you have made a promise to, and in return, they gave you the vote. And why did they give you the vote? They gave you the vote because in order for that contract to be complete, both parties must meet certain standards and certain requirements of a contract, even though it's a social contract. The conditions set by the law and the government, the conditions set by their party who represent the applicant, and also represent the person that have joined them. But it's not until the issue of the vote comes in. Because it is when it comes to the vote that you now know and you begin to see the enforceability of the arrangement that you have made. We know in order to come to vote, either you go, you vote. That simple act of putting your vote in the mailbox, or that you mailed it by whichever way. If you mailed it, the issue of mailbox rule comes in. Mailbox rule meaning that in order for the vote to be counted, it must come at a particular date, it must do this, it must do that. And you have seen, for example, in this last election in America, how it caused a lot of problem. The GOP did not challenge or say anything about the mailbox until they see a lot of mails come in and they now want to go at it. It's already in the regulations, you didn't contest it. So there is the rules. If you follow the rules, then you lose out. You can't come out and cry for fraud or cry for unjust enrichment or taking over the vote or counting votes that don't count. If you follow the mailbox rule, that's part of the social contract. Okay. So now that we have established it, so we want to tell you as a voter why you have to be vigilant. Because you cannot say that the world that you live in and in your society is not only for you to pass through when every action and everything that happens in the world could have negative or positive effect upon your life. If, for example, in my own case, the issue of religious freedom is important to me, and I didn't say anything, I didn't object, I didn't participate, I didn't mobilize, I didn't join people to make sure that my interest is protected. And then if they pass a law that says we cannot worship God anymore, I am going to be judged even by God, because in as much as it's wicked and evil. But you have failed to exercise the freedom of will and right that God has given unto you to protect your interests. We have seen in the past series talking about if you can do anything to